What's your number that you're watching on the 10-year?
I think it's around about just over that 3% mark. I mean, we love big numbers in the sand, and I think that's that number. And I think so many people are kind of prepared for it that we could see a nice pullback on that. But ultimately, how high can you really get on the 10-year? I mean, you're already pricing in 4 hikes. You get up to 325, 350. That's about as high as you can really go unless something cataclysmic happens here.
Well, but that's a great point, because what we haven't seen is we haven't seen buyers come in as yields grind higher. The thesis, say, over at HSBC, they have a 2.3% call on the 10 years, that eventually that's going to come in. Why haven't we seen that yet?
Well, I think why would you be long duration when everyone is pointing towards hikes? You see this synchronized growth coming in. Everyone's just playing a wait-and-see game, especially with the recent market volatility. And that's why, like I said, you could get a little short, sharp sell-off maybe in equities. You could see some rotation into bonds. But you're not really going to see that appreciation in bonds from here, I think, if the Fed maintains its hiking path, because ultimately the economy remains strong. And if that happens, then equities are all ready to go again, because it's like that short, sharp thing. Then everyone looks around, just like in the last week, says, actually, things aren't that bad, and then we're off to the races again.
So, Emad, there are 2 questions here for me. One is, what do we think will happen? And the other is, what will it mean? What will the consequences of that be? I mean, if it does go to 3 or 3.25 on the 10-year yield, does that really put pressure on equities, for example? Does it support the dollar? What's the consequence, if any?
Well, I think that there's that short-term pressure just because it's one of those things that everyone expects there to be pressure. So it's almost like a reflex action because we've been conditioned to low yields for so long. But then if you actually look, what does that mean for companies and their ability to borrow? What does it mean for governments and their ability to borrow? It doesn't really mean that much. Again, we've been conditioned to these low yields for so long. Everyone's been saying the yields will go up, and finally they are. That everyone's just going to have this reflex reaction, I think.